If dreams die, rely on yourself in no way. Believe.
Good morning, everybody. Another day, Tuesday. Um, Near death experiences is going to be the topic here today. Um, yeah, it is a long process, Joyce. I had everything done, so I mine was 9 hours. So good luck, mucho good luck on that one. Hopefully, they really put you out cold. Morning, everybody. So this topic was suggested, and I had my own viewpoints about it, and um, this was one of the few that I have done a little bit of looking into. Um, Heaven is Real is one of those movies that was made with a partially near death thing and all that stuff, or I died and went to heaven kind of idea. Um, and I'll give all of the breakdown as to why I think it's not real. Um, what they're experiencing is not heaven, and why I believe what they're experiencing is um, a spiritual connection to something that will be but not is. Again, there is nothing biblical about near death experiences or even the mentioning of it. However, people have taken one specific verse and made it about near death experiences, or at least a vision during death kind of experience. And we'll go into that here in a bit. But in looking into it, I came across a pastor, I use that term loosely, who wrote a book about it after having done some research about near death experiences. And he became a pastor after that experience of looking into it. Ironically, his church now is, and I do say his because it's his, is in on average bringing in about 100,000 people every Sunday. Okay, so we'll be listening to his interview. Um, but first, let's break down a couple of things. Um, People have been known to either suffer massive heart attacks, car wrecks, drowning, sudden death, and say that they can both see the events happening there or leave their body and they can witness things going on and they can tell you what happened while they were out. Um, there are people that tell you that they have gone to heaven, met their fathers, their brothers, their family members, friends, dogs, cats. Um, this great light type being that they think they know for sure it's God, and tons of stories like that all over the internet. So if we want to square this circle, we have to first establish some things. Okay. When Jesus said he was going to prepare a place, nobody knows when he was coming back. Once it's prepared, there is zero way you can go see a place that isn't prepared yet. I'm sorry to tell you that what you saw was not heaven. Besides the fact that you tell me then that you kept your own body, looked the same, you had feeling in that place of elation and all that stuff, and you came back with brand new renewed purpose. But in all of that, they never once were introduced to what they had to do when they came back. I've yet to hear an after or near death experience tell them, I need to be cleansed in the blood of Christ. I have never heard one after near death experience come back and say that. They've always said they seen God or they saw Jesus and he gave them a mission. Atheists will come back and say they have a mission, and nothing in that mission includes entering the kingdom through Jesus. I don't know how they manage that, which is my first red flag as to whether or not you've actually experienced anything by way of God. So what we're going to do first is listen to this guy, and then I'm going to read you an article about a person that went through a near-death experience. Okay? A near-death experience. And hopefully this plays, because let me verify that it will first. Because every time I try to play something lately, it's been an absolute pain. Let's try and do this correctly here. I want to make sure that I get this right. And I think I should be good. Let me know if you guys can see that okay. All right, good. Here we go.
1 in 25 people have had a near-death experience, according to the research from our next guest. So when someone escapes death and tells their story, they may hold remarkable clues that can possibly teach us about a life to come. Pastor John Burke is the author of Imagine Heaven, Near-Death Experiences, God's Promises, and the Exhilarating Future that Awaits You. He's also the founder and lead pastor of Gateway Church in Austin, Texas. John, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So near-death experiences, you believe in them now. You've studied over 1,000 cases of them.
Yes.
You didn't used to be a religious man, but then became one. Explain that to us.
Well, when my dad was dying of cancer, someone gave him the first book on near-death experiences, Life After Life. And I picked it up one night, and I read it cover to cover. And after reading it, I thought, oh my gosh, like, if this is true, this is the most important thing I could possibly find out about.
What were the commonalities you heard?
I want you to listen carefully to that statement. This is where things are going to get really ridiculous. He read a book about near-death experiences. Now, listen, again, I'm a big proponent for words and how you use them, right? He said, oh my gosh, if this is real, this is the most important thing. If this is real, this is the most important thing.
Yeah, in Imagine Heaven, I write about 12 commonalities, like we're ourselves. We have a body, but they talk about how we don't just have 5 senses. It's like we have 50 senses.
Do we look the way we looked when we died, or do we look the way we looked at our favorite age? How do we look?
Well, that's an interesting question, because people say a little bit different things, and I have my own theory I come up with in the book. But
so hold on. Heaven is different for everybody. Heaven, when you see it in a near-death experience, is different for everybody. Some see their own bodies, some see different bodies. Some see all kinds of weird things, some don't see anything, but near death is always different for everybody, because when you see heaven, it's different for everybody. So you tell me I have a custom made after death plan for just me, and I have the same corrupted flesh as I did when I was alive. Okay, continue.
People basically say we're in our prime, and you recognize each other, and they see beauty, not unlike Earth, mountains and trees and, you know, gorgeous flowers, but they experience it in other dimensions of time and space.
Is there
You hear that? You hear that? Make sure you listen carefully. Other dimensions, time, and space. Now, I heard that term before, and it was T.D. Jakes' daughter that said it, that she was about to take everyone to the next dimension. We're going to the next dimension. And I've heard this a couple of crazy times with people that are supposedly believers. Everything is a dimension, dimension, like they have dementia. I don't know how they get this dimension idea. So let's him continue.
there a peace?
Oh, it's unbelievable. People talk about, well, many people talk about being in the presence of this man of light that they know to be God, and in his presence, they never want to leave. What people always say is, I felt like I was home. I felt like that's where I belong.
But you know the skeptics say, this is all BS.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is people who are having maybe pre-death experiences,
Yeah.
and they're connoting something that they've heard on television or read in a book.
Well, and I was an engineer before a pastor, so I have a very analytical mind, and I ask a lot of the same questions. And I've interviewed doctors who have had these experiences, and I write in chapter 2 about skeptical doctors in the afterlife, what it was that convinced so many cardiologists and oncologists that these are actually showing us some picture of what's to come.
Is there anything that jumps out at you as most persuasive?
Well, there are a lot of accounts, but like, for instance, there was an article written in The Lancet, a prestigious medical journal, about a man who came in cardiac arrest in the hospital. His dentures were taken out. He was unconscious. They did CPR. He was unconscious for a whole week, moved to another room. When he comes to, he tells them where his dentures were, that they were put in this crash cart in this other room. He couldn't have possibly seen that, except he said he left his body, he witnessed what had happened.
But can't there be, you know, the hearing is still there, and something is seeping into the computer that is your brain?
And I talk about accounts like that, Pam Reynolds, where she, I can't go into all of it, but she had clickers in her ears, her eyes were taped shut, no brain waves, no heart, no heartbeat, and yet she saw exactly what was going on and described the saw they were using to operate on her brain, and it doesn't look anything like a saw.
Wow.
But she described it in detail.
You know, that
Apparently TV doesn't exist in this man's world. Apparently TV doesn't exist in this man's world. Do you know how long the concept of bodies releasing their spirit to float above them has been on TV? Black and white images I've seen doing that. Ebenezer Scrooge did that back in 1930 something. For crying out loud, Tevye went through this nonsense in Fiddler on the Roof. The concept of ghosts and spirits leaving your body, to say that, oh, they would have never known this, this, and this is nonsense. She wouldn't know what the saw looked like for her head. They've been showing that stuff on TV for years. Medical shows, documentaries have always shown what a saw that uses to open up the skull looks like. Latent memory is real. People remember stuff from when they were children. Also, the mere fact that every experience of individuals heading to the one location that God is different, is nonsense. Secondly, you being in the presence of God in your current form is completely antithetical to what he said was going to happen. He told you everything was going to be new. There, it is all new. There is no bringing of your old crap there. So right off the top, it's a lie. Now, when you pass or go unconscious or are pronounced dead by the doctor, are there things that are spiritual that can affect you and you bring it back? I'm sure. Including lies. Including lies. The same way they think every time they go to heaven, they come back with some revelation from God that never includes salvation is weird to me. That's always been a kind of little bit of a red flag. Let him finish, though. Maybe he
Life
has
After
something
Life, I can
intelligent.
say this, really helped my mom after my dad died back in 1985, and I know it helped you and was the beginnings of this. It is called Imagine Heaven by John Burke. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me here.
So a book about after death helped her mom. A book about after death helped him and his dad. You became a pastor based on a book about after death, but not the man that gives you life. That didn't help you through your father's cancer. A book about death brought you to a position of preaching. A book about what heaven might be like when no one's ever seen it, or God, you're telling me that book helped you, but Jesus didn't help you in the current life, help you deal with your dad stuff. Interesting indeed. But not everybody that goes through the after death thing or the near death thing comes out with a God story. This is Georgia Skull. Take a look at that face, okay? Okay. Most of us take everyday niggles and challenges for granted, carrying on and pushing on any doubts about our life choices to the back of our minds. But when writer, podcaster, and parent Georgina Skull came close to death at age 37, her life and her worldview changed forever after taking a long, hard look at a lengthy list of regrets. She decided to overhaul her life and confront her own happiness in a bid to truly on her own terms, to live truly on her own terms. Here, she reveals how nearly dying from an ectopic pregnancy that ruptured changed everything ultimately for the better. If you were giving a second chance at life, what would you do with it? Maybe your job's changed or travel more. Maybe move somewhere completely new and start again. Or maybe you'd become fearless and grab every single opportunity you could. In my case, I was given a second chance, and the answer was, to be honest, was not a lot. I was 37. I just had an ectopic pregnancy which ruptured and I nearly died. The surgeon that repaired me said I was about 5 minutes from death. Looking back, I can't quite understand why I didn't jump into action the moment I left the hospital. The truth is, I retreated. I became consumed with worry, fearful, adding to the long list of regrets I already had, a list that seemed to get longer as the days and months passed on. The problem was I felt guilty about feeling this way because on paper my life was really good. I had a husband, a child, and a home, but deep down I also knew that I wasn't really happy either. I was married to a lovely man, but one who wasn't lovely to me. I was living in a nice house, but a place that didn't feel like home. Basically, I needed to make some life changes. So I went to get therapy and got active, made new friends, but nothing seemed to kick me into gear. After a few years of this drift, I decided to try something different, to talk to people who were older and dying and find out what they regretted and what they learned about life and what they thought would make a happy one. I would sit beside their bed in living rooms and alongside long distance phone calls, and they would tell me stories of life and family and regrets they wish they could have rewritten there, given to the luxury of more time. And although the people I spoke to were very well all different, all dying of different regrets, the lesson they had to share was actually very similar, that I shouldn't spend lives trying to make other people happy or trying to live up to their expectations of us, that we need to appreciate and enjoy the everyday moments in life and not rush through them. And that we all need to have faith in ourselves and to take a few chances on what we really want. FYI, eventually she left her husband because that made her happy. She came close to death, and dying almost told her to leave her husband, be happy. Faith in herself. Yes, Earl. Oddly enough, I think she is more honest about what the real root of the light at the end of the tunnel and the whole facade of the afterlife business that you see. Everyone sees something different. Oddly enough, they all come back in one very specific way. I need to do something for me. They all come back with this concept of happiness. Not joy, happiness. You need to do stuff that makes you happy. Live for the moment. None of them come back. And I mean, I have yet to hear one, unless you guys may have. I have yet to hear one come back and say, I was told I was not living for God. And what I saw told me I needed to come to repentance and realize that the only way back to that location at the end of all things is to put Christ on. Not once have I heard any of them coming back from heaven with that message. When heaven left heaven to come to earth to drop that message off, they somehow, in a near death experience, can go to heaven and never hear that message. Not once. Yeah, there are stories of those who say they've seen hell too. Yeah. Ironically, when they see hell, they see the devil there. He's not even there yet, but they somehow see him there. It's not even populated yet, but somehow they can see people there. Hell is reserved. Ain't nobody there yet, but they somehow can see it and see it populated. Which is why I'm telling you, and this has zero to do with God. Zero. Zero. They see stuff that has not even transpired, which tells me they're better than God. They see stuff that no human, no celestial being knows about. Make that make sense. Now, understand this. Like I said before, I am sure that there are spiritual warfare things that happen when you die. I'm sure you can be privy to things happening in the spirit realm that you're not privy to while in the body. But with that being the case, there is a definite type of war going on in the spiritual realm. And the war that's going on in the spiritual realm has nothing to do with the end of the war yet. Like at all. Now I could understand if someone went to a near-death experience and they came back saying, "Oh man, what I saw was a war for my soul. There were two sides fighting over me. And the deciding factor was me choosing which side would win." Now, someone coming back like that, I could kind of see that being logistical because it actually is happening. But you come back telling me you sat before the throne and you saw God and you come back, but he never tells you one time how to get there? No. Nope. No. So I mentioned that someone said they had a verse that tells them about a near-death experience and so on. This is the verse that they said is about near death. And you can tell me whether or not this is making any sense as an afterlife thing, okay? You tell me. I'm not even going to try and translate it for you. You tell me. 2 Corinthians 12. This is the verse they use to promote the afterlife or the near death. It is doubtless not profitable for me to boast. I will come to visions and revelations of the Lord. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago, whether in the body I do not know, or whether out of the body I do not know, God knows, such a one was caught up into the third heaven. And I know such a man, whether in body or out of body, I do not know, God knows, he was caught up into paradise, and I heard inexpressible words, which is not lawful for a man to utter. Of such a one I will boast, yet of myself I will not boast, except in my infirmities. For though I might desire to boast, I will not be a fool, for I will speak the truth, but I will refrain, lest anyone should think of me above what he sees me to be or hears from me. That is the verse of near death and going to heaven. Can anyone see a problem with making that assumption that that's what the verse is talking about? Can anyone? Second of all, I may have to do a touching on this subject of the difference between paradise and heaven. But listen carefully to what it says, okay? He says, it is not profitable for me to boast. And he will come to revelations and visions of the Lord. So he's going to tell you about these things. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago, whether in body I do not know, or whether out of body I do not know, God knows. Such a one was caught up into the third heaven. Now, here is where my theory comes in. I think he's speaking of himself. I think he's speaking of himself. How else would you know the words are inexpressible and not lawful for a man to utter had you not heard it? Of such a one I will boast, yet of myself I will not boast. In either case, the topic is not about what he saw, how he saw it, what he was told to repeat it. He says, even in that kind of an experience, I wouldn't boast. But what I will boast in is my infirmities, because it is through my infirmities and my weakness that God is made manifest. Everyone coming back from these so-called near death to see heaven or to see hell, all come back boasting about it. They all come back boasting about it. They can't shut up about it. Not about God, but about the experience. Not about who they saw and how their life is going to be about. No, they come back boasting about the experience. That is the biggest red flag to me. That's the biggest red flag. They never talk about salvation. They never talk about how God tells them, when you get back out there, you get right with me in the way I put forth. I cannot send you on any missions until you do that. Somehow he's making exceptions for people in visions that go completely contrary to what he sent his son to do. Tell me a different lie that I can believe, please. Please tell me a different lie, because that one's just too far-fetched. Too far-fetched. No, they don't come to him. That's the crazy part. They don't. Okay, do me a favor. This is a good exercise for the week. Go back, just pick 5. Go through, just type it in. Type in near-death experiences. Go to the video tab. Just pick 5. Just 5. And you tell me where in their testimony they talk about accepting Christ. Name one spot. You go back and you find it and you tell me where in any of those 5. How many of the 5 come back and tell you that they came from that experience and They gave their life. Listen, they gave their life to Christ after recognizing who they were before him. Listen very carefully, because there are many, many who say that they have given their life to Christ and have given nothing up. They never saw their place before him. They never saw what they are before the ever living God. Not one have I ever heard, and I mean I've listened to a ton of them. Name me one that went to stand before the presence of God and come back and say, I've seen my state and I see who I am before him and I repent. Name me one. If you can find that, please send it to me. I have seen hundreds of them saying they're atheists. They went in there and they were living for themselves, and then they came out and they were living for God after, but they never tell you anything about salvation. Not once. He's a pastor. Never said it. So no, I don't believe they've encountered God. Especially going to heaven. You going to a place that's being prepared. You go to a location saying it's full of people and no one's there. If that's what they want to believe, more power to them. I myself am not sold on this after death business or this near death business. Simply for the fact that when they come out, they don't tell you about him. They tell you about the experience. They tell you about the experience. Let me look that guy up here. Let me tell you something here. Let's go to the about. In his testimony, author and speaker John Ramirez tells his true life story of how he was trained to be a satanic cult high priest in New York City, casting powerful witchcraft spells and controlling entire regions. Raised to be in an impoverished ghetto neighborhood, he grew up despising his father for his careless disregard for his family. John learned to survive the cold, harsh streets of Bronx, looking for love and validation. He eventually found it in a new family of witches, warlocks, and groomed them to be a high priest. He plunged into the dark side, reaching a boiling point on a night he sold his soul to the devil in a diabolical blood-soaked ritual with renewed fervor, and the mark of the beast now cut into his right arm. He actively recruited souls into his unholy kingdom, haunting the bars, clubs, in New York to find his right victim. He continued his dark path until God intervened through a miraculous, larger-than-life dream, revealing himself for who he really is and literally snatching John back from the grips of hell. Many have come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ by John's real and true life testimony. He is sought out speaker to hear many who was involved in the cult, and he finally come out people of all ethnic backgrounds dabble in the occult and fall victim to the satanic underworld and never see a way out. John Ramirez is one of those millions of people who made it out. That is not a near death. Not a near death experience. So what I will do is I will go and look deeper into what he espouses. Because there are already a couple of red flags. There are a couple of red flags already. Into this. Yeah, heaven is real. I heard about that. I don't know what to make of that. I'll tell you this about my kid. My son. I'll give you this experience about my son. And there is a marked difference between children and adults who have lived their entire life for selfish means. There's a massive difference to me between a child and an adult. And I will never make a correlation, especially children under 5. I'm not making any assumptions about an adult and correlating it with a 5-year-old. Understand that first. Oh, the lie is a very believable thing. Trust me. Lies are very believable. My son, when he was 3 and a half, and he was a talker. We were changing him. Maybe it might have been 4. I think he was 3 and a half, somewhere in there. And my wife and I were just talking. We were in the bedroom with him together, and he had just gotten changed. And he stood up and he said, Mom, I chose your belly. Now, I don't know whether or not he heard this somewhere. I'm just telling you the story. And he said, I chose your belly. And she's like, what do you mean you chose my belly? He's like, I chose your belly. I asked God for your belly. And so like, okay. In other words, I chose to be a part of this family. Now, years before that, we had a miscarriage. Okay. Like in our first or second year of marriage, we had a miscarriage. And we thought it was going to be a girl, and we were looking forward, and it, miscarriage. Lo and behold, he comes forward and he says, yeah, I chose your belly. I don't know what he meant exactly by that. If he just meant that he likes the feel of my wife's stomach, or if he meant that he actually talked to God about, being a part of our family. I don't know, nor do I care about that conversation. It was really touching at the moment, but it has zero, and I mean zero bearing on my walk as a believer, because my walk as a believer is based on Christ, not on somebody else's testimony as a 5-year-old or as a 50-year-old. It's a personal relationship. They may encourage me to get deeper, or they may be the kickstart to my walk, but my walk is mine. My walk is mine. Which is why when people invest all of their efforts into following a person, they run into problems. This pastor is really good. I love this pastor. I love that pastor. I really always listen to what he says. That's why I keep telling you I don't want you doing that with me. Like at all. I know what God is doing through me. I get that. But in the through me, it is not me. You get it? Simply a mouthpiece. That's all I am. a mouthpiece, which is why I keep directing you back to the author. I don't want you coming to me for the final of anything. He is the final of all of it. He may be introducing you to something through me, clarifying a little bit of something through me, but the full clarification comes from him. Say you're struggling with a question, okay? A theory, something that you heard, a problem you struggle with your whole life. And I happen to touch on it in something I'm saying, and it really resonates with you. Do not leave it there. Don't leave it there. Don't say, "Oh, I got my answer." No, 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 no. No, no. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Don't do that. Do not. You hear it. It makes sense. You think it clarifies something for you. Never stop taking it to the author. If you don't, look, it's an authenticity check. Consider it your eye, retinal scanner, thumbnail, whatever you want to consider it. It's an authentication check. Everything you hear from the pulpit, a video, take it back to him. If it doesn't match up with him, it ain't matching up at all. Then you can come back and say, "You lied." And if I lied and I don't want to stop lying, you know what you can easily do? Not listen and go expose it for what it should be. That's your charge. But you can't expose something when you have not gone to check it against the author. These near death, light at the end of the tunnel, body leaving the soul to release the soul. No, look, seek the Lord while he may be found. If you come out of an after or near death experience and the only thing you come away with is, "I saw my family and I had this body and I saw God," and he never tells you what you must do to be saved, you did not see God. Because in order to be in his presence, certain things have to take place. He may call you. He may reveal that you need to find him. He may show you that you're wrong. But there is zero way he will leave you without knowledge of how to find him. Zero. As for John Ramirez, I will take a gander at this stuff because now I'm intrigued. Especially him saying that he carved certain things into his flesh, including the mark of the beast. Red flags is all I'm saying. Red flags. Here's another red flag. He is part and parcel of the same people that espouse all of the Antichrist type doctrine. Creflo Dollar, a bunch of these health and wealth pastors. Just by looking at his page, I'm telling you that something is not right about this man. Something ain't right about this human being. TBN, he's sponsored by Creflo Dollar Ministries, Patricia King Ministries, the 700 Club, the Travel Channel. Yeah, nah. Nah. Nah, fam. Nope. Instantaneous red flags. I think he just saw a way to make more money being the devil fighting for the cause of God than he did on the other side. That's all I'm seeing so far. I will take a look at him. We might even look at him via Too Strong. I think that might be the best way to do it, is to look at him via Too Strong. I'll talk to Corey today. We're going to get to the bottom of him. His name came up for a reason. His name came up for a reason. His name came up for a reason. So I thank you, Monica, for that. So his name came up for a reason. Understand this, though, about the topic. And this is one thing that he told me long ago. This was the beginning of my long journey back. God may have loved me enough to come find me, but he loved me too much to leave me there. He may have loved me enough to come find me, but he was loving me way too much to leave me there. This whole concept about the lamb in the thicket bush, the one that got lost and he went to find it, he didn't just go find the sheep and say, oh, I've located the sheep, and then brought the rest of the flock to hang around the sheep while it was still entangled in this thorn bush. That's not what happened. There are so many people who believe that they can serve God while still in their old way of living. Gay preachers and all this stupid nonsense. As though when Christ finds them, he brings the whole battalion over to come stand around these people in their thorn bushes. No, he finds you in the thorn bushes because you were dumb enough to be in there. And he breaks apart all of that nonsense and removes you fully, removes the sheep from the thorns, removes it from the bush that has it caught, and puts it back as part of the 99, completing his flock. He might love you enough to find you, but he loves you too much to leave you there. Today's relationship with God is, you love me as you found me. And you never get to the rest of it. Your love's too good to leave me here. God loves me as I am. No, he don't. No, he don't. Don't lie. Don't lie. He would love to see you saved. He loves his creation. But as long as you identify with your sin, no, that does not apply. He loved you enough to create a path back to him, but not as you are. To experience God's love in full, you cannot be as you are. You can't. It is impossible. But you say that in order to maintain your old way of living and act as though you're new. It's your excuse. The same reason people use the excuse of when I got near death, I saw this beautiful place and I saw all this and I saw all that. And they come back and telling everybody about you saw, but you never tell anybody about the fact that if you had actually done that, you would be living, not just talking different, living different. In fact, you wouldn't probably even say anything about the place. You would be talking solely, completely about what it did to transform your life from you living for you and you seeing yourself as it to living for God and telling everybody how to. You won't just be telling them about this location and how you had a near death experience and blah, blah, blah. No. You'd come back with the knowledge that, hey, y'all, time is short. This is the process. Do it. They don't hardly do that, if ever. But I'm going to definitely look into John. For sure, going to be looking into John. In any case, tomorrow's show is already up. We are dealing with Noah tomorrow. And his trust of God. We'll be talking about Noah. And it will be a very good discussion. If you have not read it yet, please do. Because there are certain things about Noah that many kind of sidestep about it. There are certain things that they sidestep about it. So if you want to find out, it's in Genesis 6 from about 9-ish, verse 9. And you can read it. It goes all the way through, I think, 7 or 8. So take a look at that. Genesis 6. Because I think you'll end up seeing some crazy stuff in there that most people kind of brush over. And people want to talk about the righteousness of Noah, and they miss one other part of this whole story, and that's the one I want to harp on. And that's Noah's trust. I really want to harp on that. Really, really want to harp on that. Mailbox down at the bottom. Oh, and I was supposed to bring it down. I got this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Oh my! I have to see. Hang on, I have to show it. I need to see if the wife is upstairs. If she's here, I'm going to have her bring it down for me so I can show you, because man, this thing is so gorgeous. And the mail, I got this personalized knit throw. It's only like like a little placemat thing, and this little baggie with the Brown family on it. Beautiful, just beautiful. And if she doesn't reply here, I'll run upstairs and get it. I'll just take the camera off real quick, run and get it, and come back. Let me see if no reply yet. Okay, because you have to see it. I'm not bragging about it, but it was just a beautiful gesture. I think I want to thank her personally on air. Let's see. Am I hearing a door? Or is that the dog? No. Okay, I'll be right back. Right back. Just right back. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. From Donna. This is what it was. This is what I got sent. Isn't that pretty? The wife loved it, so it's now hers. Apparently, I got it, but it's hers now. Okay, so that's what happens when you get stuff. Your spouse takes it. That's the other thing too that she sent. This right here. So it's all the wife stuff now. So I may have gotten it, but it's hers. So thank you, Donna. Thank you. I really love the letter too. Thank you. I'll be writing you back here. Everybody that wrote me stuff, I will be writing back. I just have to get time to do that. Weekends, I get so caught up in relaxing, I forget to actually do stuff. So my apologies. It's nice. It's just good stuff. Just personalizing everything. It's real cool. So thank you. So stuff like that, when I get it, it's just like, it's that kind of stuff just encourages me, it does. Not that I'm begging for gifts. I don't want anybody to think that. But when I do get stuff like that, it's just really cool. I am not sweating, and I did run, but I'm not sweating. Okay, I ran yesterday for the first time in 7 years. I ran yesterday. I've been trying to get back to that, but when you haven't done the stuff like that for a long time, you feel it. You feel it. Feel it. In any case, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. So remember, Genesis 6, verse 9 onward to about 8. And be sure to read that up. So when we talk tomorrow, you'll have an idea of where I'll be going. Okay. Oh, and Friday, it looks more like I will be able to just do the response to my kids' testimony. So looking good so far. If that changes, I'll let you know. Too Strong will be on in an hour. Be sure to catch that. Today, we are talking about the Mr. Beast debacle. If you haven't heard of Mr. Beast, you might do some looking up on him, because some of your kids or grandkids might actually be watching him on YouTube and stuff like that. He has a very big following. I think 100 and something million followers or some nonsense like that. Massive, massive following. So you might want to tune into that if you have kids, because his target audience is young adults, 10, 11, all the way up to 18, and some adults, but mostly kids. So, yeah. Yes, the mix is on tonight. So here's the schedule for the mix. Now it's Tuesday through Friday. There's only one conflict in the week, and that's on Monday. So it'll be Tuesday through Fridays for the mix. Same time, 8 o'clock Eastern. And Too Strong is usually on at 2 o'clock Eastern in the weekday. So love you guys. Mean it. Appreciate it. We'll catch you guys in the morning. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. So please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight.